Welcome to Context 101. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. The South China Sea is simmering, a daily drama of steel, water, and national pride. Tensions ripple across the waves as rival nations stake their claims in these contested waters, each maneuvering for advantage in a region rich with history and ambition. Chinese Coast Guard giants shadow and intimidate smaller Philippine patrol boats, using water cannons as weapons. These encounters are not just shows of force, they are calculated moves in a high-stakes geopolitical chess game. Every resupply mission to a rusted outpost is a high-stakes test of resolve. Crews risk their safety to deliver supplies, knowing each trip could spark a new confrontation or escalate existing tensions. This is the front line of a modern conflict, where coercion and open hostility blur, threatening a global flashpoint. The line between peace and provocation is razor-thin, and a single miscalculation could ignite a wider crisis. The stakes are immense: trillions in trade, vital fisheries, and the core principles of international law. The livelihoods of millions depend on stability here, and the world's economy is tied to these waters. Here, the US and its allies face off against a rising, assertive China. Naval exercises and patrols send powerful signals, as both sides test each other's resolve and readiness. The world watches, knowing that what happens here could set precedents everywhere. Diplomats and leaders weigh every move, aware that the consequences will echo far beyond these shores. As of January 2026, a volatile stalemate persists: China's maritime might versus Philippine resistance, backed by growing international support. The balance of power remains uncertain, and the risk of escalation is ever present. We'll dissect the crisis, its origins, recent escalations, and the strategies shaping this dangerous standoff. Understanding the roots of this conflict is key to grasping its global significance. Through expert analysis and first-hand voices, we'll reveal why this conflict matters to global security. The insights of those on the front lines and in policy rooms will shed light on the path ahead. The urgent question: can peace prevail before catastrophe strikes? The answer will shape not just the fate of this region, but the future of international order itself. Today's tensions are the result of a century-old struggle over the South China Sea, a region that has long been a crossroads for trade, culture, and strategic ambition. China's claim, rooted in a 1947 map and the infamous 9-dash line, clashes with modern international law and the rights of its neighbors. This line, drawn after World War II, was meant to assert historical rights, but it remains highly controversial. The 1994 UN Convention on the Law of the Sea granted countries like the Philippines exclusive rights to resources within 200 nautical miles of their coasts, creating new legal frameworks for maritime boundaries. China's sweeping claims cut into these zones, fueling decades of disputes and diplomatic standoffs with Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, and others. In 2016, the Philippines won a landmark legal victory at The Hague, which invalidated China's claims. But Beijing rejected the ruling outright, insisting on its own interpretation of history and sovereignty. Since then, China has built militarized artificial islands, transforming reefs and shoals into strategic outposts. It has also deployed a vast maritime militia to enforce its control, blurring the line between civilian and military presence. In 2023, Beijing expanded its claims with a new 10-dash line, escalating tensions further and drawing international concern. This history of defiance and expansionism underpins today's dangerous standoff, as rival navies and coast guards face off in contested waters. The legal battle has become a raw contest of power on the water, with the world watching closely as the stakes continue to rise. Since 2023, confrontations have intensified around hotspots like Second Thomas Shoal. Philippine vessels on routine missions face overwhelming force from China's Coast Guard and maritime militia. In March 2024, Chinese ships injured Filipino sailors with water cannons, a calculated act of harassment. June 2024 saw a violent escalation, ramming, bladed weapons, and severe injuries during a resupply mission. The US condemned the attack, reaffirming its defense commitments and raising the risk of wider conflict. Diplomatic efforts have repeatedly failed, with agreements quickly unraveling amid deep mistrust. China's assertiveness now extends to other regional disputes, signaling its willingness to pressure multiple fronts. For the Philippines, every mission is a perilous gamble, with the threat of escalation ever present. Outmatched at sea, the Philippines has turned to transparency as a weapon. By embedding journalists on patrols, Manila exposes China's aggression in real time, shaping global opinion and rallying support. Viral videos of Chinese harassment have isolated Beijing diplomatically and drawn condemnation worldwide. China counters with gray zone tactics, using its Coast Guard and maritime militia to intimidate without open warfare. At home, the Philippines fosters unity through public campaigns and education, teaching the next generation about their maritime rights. This battle for hearts and minds is as crucial as the clashes at sea. The information war is redefining the conflict's front lines. The standoff has redrawn the Indo-Pacific's strategic map. The Philippines has pivoted firmly toward the U.S., granting expanded base access and revitalizing alliances. Joint naval exercises with the U.S., Japan, and Australia send a unified message. Freedom of navigation will be defended. ASEAN, divided by Chinese influence, struggles to respond as a bloc. China wields economic power to punish dissent, as seen in sanctions against Japan. Nations now balance security needs against the risk of economic retaliation. The South China Sea is the epicenter of U.S.-China rivalry, with every move watched worldwide. The region's future hinges on this high-stakes geopolitical chess game. The South China Sea is a lifeline for global trade. One-third of shipping, worth trillions, passes through these waters. Rising tensions threaten to disrupt supply chains and drive up costs worldwide. The sea's rich fisheries feed millions, but Chinese patrols block access, devastating local communities. Oil and gas reserves remain untapped as overlapping claims and Chinese dominance deter exploration. China uses economic coercion to pressure rivals, while the Philippines faces the constant threat of sanctions. Regional militarization diverts resources from development to defense, fueling an arms race. The economic toll is mounting, with livelihoods and national budgets strained by the ongoing standoff. The cost of conflict is felt from global markets to the smallest fishing villages. Beyond geopolitics, the standoff's human cost is borne by Filipino fishermen, men and families whose lives are tied to the tides and the promise of the sea. Once free to fish at Scarborough Shoal, they now face intimidation and loss at the hands of Chinese patrols, who block access and threaten livelihoods that have endured for generations. Many return with empty nets, forced into poverty and stripped of their way of life. The sea that once provided abundance now brings uncertainty and fear. Their stories, shared through media and public rallies, have galvanized national unity and inspired calls for a tougher stance to protect their rights and dignity. Educational campaigns now teach the next generation about their rights and the fishermen's struggle, ensuring that the fight for justice and sovereignty is not forgotten. Yet rising nationalism raises the stakes, making compromise harder for both sides and fueling a sense of urgency and pride across the nation. The fishermen dream not of victory, but of peace, a return to the sea without fear, where their only concern is the day's catch, not the shadow of conflict. Their plight is a stark reminder. The conflict's impact is deeply personal, touching families, communities, and the very soul of coastal life. They are symbols of resilience, caught in a struggle far beyond their control, yet refusing to give up hope or abandon their heritage. Their simple wish for normalcy is lost in a sea of geopolitical rivalry, but their voices echo, a call for peace, dignity, and the right to return home with a full net. Experts agree, the Philippines' transparency campaign is a masterstroke of asymmetrical power. By exposing China's actions, Manila imposes diplomatic costs and shapes global opinion. China's gray zone tactics, Coast Guard and militia, Let it assert control without open war, but risk dangerous escalation. US and allied naval patrols deter aggression, but also fuel militarization, creating a security dilemma. Each side's defensive moves are seen as provocations, driving a cycle of escalation. There's no military solution. The Philippines can't expel China, and China can't crush Filipino resolve without risking wider war. The standoff is a test of endurance and international attention. Success depends on sustaining global focus and political will. The game is one of patience, risk, and the strategic use of law, media, and force. As of January 2026, the South China Sea remains locked in a perilous stalemate. China's physical dominance hasn't won legitimacy. The Philippines has rallied global opinion, but remains outgunned. The greatest danger is accidental escalation. A single clash could spark a catastrophic conflict. Rising nationalism and militarization make the situation increasingly unstable. De-escalation is urgent. Diplomacy must move beyond rhetoric to real trust building. The US and China bear special responsibility to set guardrails and prevent disaster. ASEAN must find unity and push for a binding code of conduct. The future of the South China Sea will test whether rules or raw power shape our world. The world cannot look away. It must support dialogue, champion law, and work for lasting peace. The fate of millions and the global order itself hangs in the balance.